the last segment of Midrash we're going to look at today is from this. Originally appears in the Yerushalmi, in the Talmud, and who would like to read that? I'm looking at number 27.
I'll read it.
Again, okay, in the synagogue, yeah.
In the synagogue in Ma'on, it's the one on page 725.
Yeah.
Okay, in the synagogue in Ma'on, while interpreting in Aramaic the verse, "Hear this, O ye priests." Jose of Ma'on?
Yossi.
Yossi, I'm sorry.
Jose?
Can you please just call him Jose?
But because we just spoke about minorities, okay, so they're represented.
I think it was in my head, because I was thinking that.
Do you know a rabbi named Jose?
We do now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yossi.
I have friends with Rabbi Jose.
Really?
Yeah.
Yossi of Ma'on said, "The Holy One will fetch the priests, have them stand for judgment, and ask them, 'Why did you not labor in study of Torah? Did you not enjoy 24 gifts as your prerogative?' The priests will reply, but Israel give us nothing now."
Okay, let's expand this paragraph because everything builds on that.
Okay, so does this mean after the destruction of the temple?
Yeah, it happens after the destruction.
The rabbis call the priests out and say, "Why weren't you studying Torah at the same time that you were priests?"
Yeah, sort of. It's part of that discussion of saying the Kohanim did not follow the ways of Torah, but it's already mentioned in Tanakh. It's a pasuk from Moshe. The prophet rebukes the Kohanim for not following, it doesn't say not learning Torah, just not following the word of God. And the way Yosef of Ma'on visualizes this, it's a public trial.
Okay.
And the Kohanim are standing there, and God says, "Why did you not study Torah? Did you not have enough money? I mean, you were lived comfortably. You should have been able to study Torah." And they say, "Israel, like the people, didn't give us anything." Then Yossi went on. Yes.
Okay. Then Yossi went on, "Attend ye, house of Israel. Why, O Israel, did you not give to the priests the 24 gifts I commanded you at Sinai to give?" Israel will reply, "But the servants of the patriarch's household take everything." Then Yossi went on.
Wait. So here's we have the trial,
So they're
right?
passing the buck. Everybody's
Yes.
passing the buck.
So the Kohanim are standing trial for not studying Torah. They say we didn't have money because the Israelites didn't support us. So God calls on the Israelites. Why didn't you pay them? They say we didn't have money because the servants of the patriarch of the Nasi took everything from us.
The servants of who is that? The servants of the Nasi.
Okay, so he goes on to say.
Okay. Then Yossi went on to say, "Give ear, O royal house of the patriarch," meaning like the lineage of David.
Yeah, originally that's the problem with the translation. It's Ubet HaMelech HaAzinu. Listen, people of the royal court.
Okay. "For unto you will come judgment. It is not to you that I said, this then shall be what is adjudged to belong to the priests." What? This then? Why is there a question?
No, it's a question.
Is it not?
Didn't I tell
Is it not to
you
you?
that this it will belong to the priest?
Is
Meaning,
it not to you?
the king is in charge of giving the Kohanim what they deserve. So basically, like you said, there's a revolving door, like one, or it's a cycle. One person is accused and he passes the buck to the next one. So the Kohanim are not to blame. The Israelites are not to blame. So who is eventually to blame?
King.
The house of Nasi, because they take money from the people and they don't give it to the Kohanim as they should.
Right, because the initial design of the system, there was no court.
Right. This then, okay.
Wait,
Therefore,
let me read it. Is it not to you that I said, this then shall be what is adjudged to belong to the priests? Therefore, at you and against you will judgment be turned when I sit in judgment over the royal patriarch's house to bring their rule to an end and have them perish from the world.
so who is he talking to? Is it just describing the reality at the time of the Tanakh? I mean, at the time of the Mikdash?
He's also talking to the priests after the temple.
The priests had no role after the temple. So who still has a role after the temple? After the rabbis and the Nasi, who is the patriarch. So what happens when he gets wind of what was said? When Rabbi Judah?
Judah and Nasi.
Okay, when Rabbi Judah the patriarch heard what Yossi had said, he was enraged, and Yossi, frightened, fled. In the evening, Reish Lakish went in to pay his respects to Rabbi Judah and to pacify him concerning Yossi of Ma'on, saying, Master, we should be grateful to the nations of the world who bring mimes into their theaters and circuses to entertain them, and thus induce them to converse amicably among themselves without lapsing into foolish quarrels. It was in order to wean people from vain pursuits that Yossi of Ma'on expounded words of Torah, yet you are enraged at him. Rabbi Judah, but does he know anything at all of Torah? Reish Lakish, yes. He is an eminent scholar. Rabbi Judah, will he be able to answer any questions I may put to him? Reish Lakish, yes. Rabbi Judah, if so, let him come to me.
Okay, let's stop here. What happened so far? So Rabbi Judah, the patriarch,
Is really pissed.
so why is he angry?
Does he think that, like, Yossi doesn't have the power or the knowledge to condemn people the way
He's not a rabbi. It's called Yossi of Maon.
So he's like just some
He's a
guy.
social activist.
Some guy.
He's a social activist who say Israelite lives matter.
Well,
It's always this. It's a game of power.
I mean,
right?
he's predicting an end to the patriarch's house,
Mm-hmm.
and have them perish from the world.
Right.
So he's saying he's bad-mouthing
The patriarch, right. So, but why is the patriarch upset? Just because he badmouthed him, or because he's exposing the truth? Is he expressing something that is really happening, or is he just making up stuff, badmouthing in the sense of calumny and gossip and something which is not real?
No, there's merit to what he's saying.
Right, there is merit. Otherwise,
Why would
probably
he be so offended?
right. So Rabbi Yossi is offended.
This is another example of a rabbi being called out for misbehavior by someone who
Right.
him.
Yes. And we saw another example of the people who used Korah to rebuke the Kohanim. And you asked me then, why would they be afraid? And here's an example. He has to run away. He has to flee because Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is upset. And Rabbi Yehuda, it's not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. It's not Rabbi Yehuda, the prince who wrote the Mishnah. It's his grandson, Rabbi Yehuda Nesi'ah. That's how you see it in the Aramaic. So he lived about 100 years after him. And there were already voices that were saying that he's not as great in Torah and he should not be the leader. So he's voicing this popular opposition to the Nasi. And since the Kohanim are out of the picture, meaning he used the biblical text where the Kohanim are accused, he creates a whole mock trial or public trial, and eventually incriminates the house of Nasi. So, and he does it in Bet Knesset Shel Ma'on. So we don't know what is the Bet Knesset of Ma'on. We know it's a village. It's interesting that maybe it's symbolic that Ma'on is also the word for home. So it's like it's a breakaway, it's the breakaway minyan. It's the ones that don't want to go, the shul of the Nasi, we don't pray there anymore. Could be. It could be just a small village where they held their own minyan. And he expounded this pasuk because he cannot speak publicly. So it's like an underground synagogue. And so he runs away, and then Reish Lakish comes to pay respect, meaning to talk, not to pay respect as in mourning, to really show his respect to Rabbi Yehuda Nesi'ah. So why is Reish Lakish the negotiator?
Because he understands the common people.
Right. So he's, on one hand, is in a position of power. He's a scholar that Rabbi Yehuda Nesi'ah respects. On the other hand, he's a commoner. Truly, we know. It's according to Midrash, his origins were humble. Can they say? What was he?
Fighter?
More
Like a wrestler?
a robber.
A robber?
Yeah, a powerful man, but he was a robber. So was a criminal who became Baal Tshuva, became learned, very nice. So he knows Yosef of Ma'on, and he knows the complaint of the people, but he also has access to Yehuda Nesi'ah. So he comes to him, and how does he comfort him? He says, Master, we should be grateful to the nations of the world who brings mimes into their theaters and circuses. So look at the Hebrew. It says, Shehen machnisot mumasim. Mumas, or mimes, is from, I don't know how it's in the Greek, it's whether it's with an I or a Y. It's mimos. A pantomime.
Where is it
In the Hebrew, it's 8th line in the left column. So the mumas was some kind of a masked. It's not a mime, the way we call it today, but it's some kind of a figure, either a person or a mask. Yeah. And thus induce them to converse amicably among themselves without lapsing into foolish quarrels. Converse amicably. This is not. Okay, the translation is a little off. I would do translate like that. They bring the mumasim, they bring whatever this mimos is into the theater, into the circuses, and they play with them, or they make them laugh, in order to stop them from talking to each other, not to have them converse amicably, to stop them from talking to each other, and eventually end up with a fight. So why even mention this practice? First of all, remember that we started one of the early sessions on Midrash. We discussed the influence of Greek entertainment on Midrashim. The rabbis had to really deal with that phenomenon. So here we see that they are very well aware, not just of the goyim now, the Greeks are now going into their theaters and into their circuses. They know what's happening inside. But he makes an analogy, just as the Greeks bring the mimos into the theater, so Yosef of Maon expounded words of Torah. Yet you are enraged of him. What is the analogy between what Yosef of Maon does and?
Is he comparing him to a mime?
It seems like it, right? He says he's an entertainer.
He's an entertainer.
He's an entertainer.
Or he's there for entertainment value and not learning.
Right. So he says it like Yossi of Maon says words of Torah, so why are you upset? But then I don't understand why this whole introduction of the bringing the mimos into. So either he says Yosef of Maon is an entertainer. He just wanted to get the people's attention so they will be engaged in tefillah and not talk to each other, right? It seems like
the peace.
What?
He's keeping the peace.
He's keeping the peace, right? But it could be also, and some scholars from this source and another, I think there's one other source in Eicha Rabbah where they speak about the mimos or some kind of puppets, like the figure of a camel that are being brought into the theater. It seems like some rabbis used props when they came to give the drush. It looks far-fetched, right?
You see it now.
And you see it now? What did you see?
So there's a group called
Storytellers.
Storytellers, yeah.
Right? So they come in and they dress up and they act it out and,
Right.
you know.
Right. And a lot of rabbis do it without dressing up, right? Doing impressions or being theatrical.
All rabbis really want to
Yeah, I did it once.
stand-up comics. So.
Yeah, I don't like that when the drasha becomes a stand-up comedy, but because I heard from people, it was so funny, it was so entertaining, and then I heard from someone a little more intelligent thing there. It was like a gag reel. It's like I didn't come to shul to hear that. I did one time. I did that on Erev Kippur when we were reading Kol Nidrei. I wanted to illustrate how we drag with us stuff year after year, and we have grudges. So I asked one of the kids to wait outside with a supermarket cart filled with black garbage bags, and he came into he pushed it in, and everybody was looking at it. Someone told me years later that they still remember this drasha because the visual image is captivating. So it's not improbable that when Yosef Me'oni is telling this story, he uses props, and because he uses those images, here they are standing trial, maybe using something like that. Which, by the way, there's still it is still practiced, even though it's slowly disappearing. The art of storytelling with props, especially in North Africa. I had the merit to know my wife's grandmother, who was originally from Morocco, and when she would tell us stories, she really saw the art of the story, and with holding you with suspense, and at the cliffhanger she would say, "Okay, you know what? You need to eat something. Go eat something." And everything, no, Grandma, no, we need the story. No, I'm tired. We'll talk later. But also, every time the story was told was a little different, from a little different angle. So what you could find in Morocco, at least until recently, are storytellers who are like street artists, and when they have a box of props, and they just pull out during the story, they will pull out a prop from ridiculous stuff like broken American toys with local stuff, whatever it is, pieces of garments. What kids do when they invent stories as they go along, but it's an art. He would tell the story fluently, and he pulls out a prop and he improvises on that prop, incorporates in the story, and moves along. So that is a very interesting part of the whole presentation, and I think that it's insinuated here, not written clearly, that this is what Yossi of Ma'on says. So he says, look, and so what I think what Resh Lakish is telling Yuda Nesi'ah is all in a what do you call it? Not upside down, like negative language. The kids have this term, I forgot what it is. Opposite day, right?
Oh.
It's called opposite. It's opposite language. When he say we have to thank the nations for bringing the mimes, and he says it's terrible what's happening.
Ironic?
Yes, it's terrible because look, they're killing us. They're taking over all of our clients, all of our audience with all their practices. What are we going to do? We have to keep them entertained. So Yossi said Dvar Torah. What he did, he used the same technique to deliver Dvar Torah. Why are you upset? He interpreted the psukim. Yeah, so maybe you didn't come out in such bright colors, but at least the people will listen. Something like that. Okay, so then what happens? Yes.
Sorry, I just don't see it that way.
You don't have to see it that way.
Okay.
I'm just saying that in if you read it literally, the analogy is not so clear. He says we have to thank the nations for being dramatic in their theaters, right? And Yossi said Dvar Torah, and why are you upset? I don't see the logical connection of his statement.
Well, he's causing problem. I mean, he's basically causing a balagan, right? He wants something to happen.
Who's causing a balagan? Yossi?
He's basically saying this, he's causing this problem, right?
But the Resh Lakish is now talking in his defense.
Right.
So how is this the defense? Later there's a balagan. We're looking at the paragraph which says when Rabbi Judah the Patriarch heard what Yossi had said, and then you see in quotation marks, Master, we should be grateful to the nations of the world who bring mimes into their theaters and circuses to entertain them, and thus induce them to converse amicably without lapsing into foolish quarrels. It was in order to wean people from vain pursuits that Yossi Amon expanded. So they added this in brackets. It's not in the original Hebrew. In the original Hebrew is they bring the mimes, and he said Dvar Torah. So why are you upset? So it's like saying you should be upset at them, not at him. He's trying to remedy the situation.
It's similar to the other Midrash that we looked at, where you can't come out and say, "Oh, what they're saying is ridiculous." He's trying to work within within the fabric of the society that we're living in.
Yeah.
Right?
So he says they're doing fine. They're doing great things. So we also should do great things. But he does acknowledge that they have a competition. It's very fierce. So now what happens? So Rabbi Yehuda says, does he know anything of Torah? Yes, he's an eminent scholar. So now,
If so, let him come to see me. When Yossi came in, Rabbi Judah asked him, what is meant by behold everyone that useth proverbs shall use this proverb against thee, saying, like mother, like daughter? Yossi said,
so wait. Let's start with the question.
So
Because this is like the the other mashal that we saw about with the bucket, and this is a mashal about the mashal. It's the whole story is about the process of using the text, inciting the people, upsetting the president. Now interpreting. Now he comes with another pasuk, and he uses a pasuk that speaks about presenting proverbs or parables. Hine kol ha-moshel alayich imshol lemor ke'ima bita. He who says a parable about you will say as mother, as daughter. Why this verse? We don't know.
probably used it in negative context in its original format.
Right. So let's see.
Ezekiel doesn't complain about people.
Oh yes. So what does he answer?
All right, like mother, like daughter. Like the generation is its patriarch, like the altar are its priests. As people say in the proverb, like the garden is the gardener.
This is like Inception, by the way. Proverb within proverb.
Okay.
I hated that movie.
Oh, I didn't watch it. Sorry. At that.
At that, Reish Lakish said to Yossi, even before I finish pacifying Rabbi Judah for one insult, you hurl another insult at him for us to go with.
Okay, so what happens here? What did he ask him? He's insulting him again. He said, like the garden is like the gardener. If the garden is unkempt,
It's like you reap what you sow.
yeah,
Like if you
Yeah.
if you don't take care of your people, they're going to revolt.
right. Or he says
Whatever the state-
the generation is in shambles.
And it's the
That's on
leader's
you.
responsibility.
Yes. In other words, wake up and smell the coffee.
Visual aids. That was the visual aid.
But I think that
This is a sort of difficult one.
yeah. I don't know if the story was altered, if that was really the end of the story, because the verse that Rabbi Yehuda chose is like a trap. I mean, there's a double entendre here. He says, "Kol ha-moshel alayich imshol."
Why did he choose this one?
I have no idea. I'm trying to figure out. Kol ha-moshel alayich imshol. Right? Lemor.
Yeah, I mean, they quoted it pretty much exact. I mean, looking at the context before it, but probably not going back far enough.
Yes, so what?
Have you not committed depravity on top of all your other abominations? Why, everyone who uses proverbs applies to you the proverb, like mother, like daughter. You are the daughter of your mother who rejected her husband and children, and you are the sister of your sisters who rejected their husbands and children. For you are daughters of a Hittite mother and an Amorite father. Your elder sister was...
Yeah, we can stop there. Yeah. That comes from a very vituperative nevuah, which actually we use some of it in Pesach. We say that about the girl who was abandoned at a young age, and then someone adopts her and takes care of her. But from within your blood, you shall live. But then she rebels against the. So maybe that's what Rabbi Yehuda meant. You rebel against me, I take good care of you. But
And then he's like, I'm this way because you're a poor leader. Like,
He says what?
I speak out against you because you're a poor leader.
no, he says, oh, you're a poor leader. Yeah, you're not doing well.
Because he says, what are you complaining about? I take good care of you. And he's saying, if you took good care of me, then I wouldn't be rebelling.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, we know the answer. I think maybe that Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah says, if you are a master of parables, right? So here we have a pasuk that speak about parables, which Hine kol ha-moshel alayich imshol, that the prophet speaks about brings a story, which is in itself a parable, and it says, if you want to make a parable on that, you will say like mother, like daughter. Right? So maybe that is the reason. But the mine or the obstacle that Rabbi Nasi put for himself right away is this word.
Oh, mashal.
Mashal. This is mashal, but the verb mashal has another meaning in Hebrew.
Well,
Look at Genesis.
Isn't it to rule?
Yes.
whoa.
Vehu Yimshol Bach. Right? The modern Hebrew for government, Memshalah. So he says, whoever governs you will govern in a way of like mother, like daughter. That's why I think it's a setup. Either it's a setup. I mean, either it's hard. I mean, we don't know if there were other versions to the story. Could be that there was a longer conversation, and that is, I think, probably the most probable option, is that he didn't start right away with this pasuk. They started engaging in a conversation, and somehow Yosef of Ma'on was able to stir the conversation into this pasuk. He wanted Yehuda Nesi'ah because I have seen no logical explanation why of all verses of Tanakh he would pick this one. But if it was planted in his mind by Yosef of Ma'on, then we really a shrewd tactic, because he gets him to ask him about this pasuk, and he plays on the word Moshe. Instead of saying it's he who is an expert of parables, will say the following. He says, he who rules you will rule in such way, like father, like daughter. So
What does that mean, though?
that like mother, like daughter. So it means,
Yeah,
first of
but
all,
he will rule you like mother, like daughter.
what is it when he talks to Yehuda Nesi'ah, and he says your rule is like mother, like daughter? He says you're not the first one to do that. Your father was the same,
Oh,
or maybe your grandfather also.
so he's not only criticizing.
He's not only criticizing him, now he's criticizing his dynasty.
previous
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Previous generations.
And then he concludes with, he starts with his commentary and says, this is what people say. The garden is like the gardener. So, this is what people say. I'm bringing you Vos Populi. This is the sound of the public. This is what they say.
This is what's trending.
Yes, exactly. Right? There's a famous mashal with the garden and the gardener. Brilliant movie also. Being there.
Garden is the
Peter
gardener.
Sellers.
Like
Peter
you're
Sellers,
defined
yeah.
by what you do.
No, the garden in general is like human actions. Like you reap what you sow, and so on. But in that movie, everything he said he meant literally, and people said it can't be literal because it's so stupid. So they elevate it to the level of the parable, and because there's one scene where he eventually gets to sit, this simple gardener, right, Chauncey Gardner, sits with the president of the United States, and he asks him about U.S. policy. He says, "What do you suggest we do?" And he says, "The winter, the garden dies in the winter, but reawakens in the spring." Something like this. Oh, so you're saying that we should do this and that, and bring the economy down for a while, and then yeah. So, but here's this, the Fia Gana Ganan. You're not doing well. You're not a good president. Your father maybe was not a good president. And Resh Lakish says, he's still angry for the first one. You're hurling another blow. But I think we learn a lot from this story. We learn of culture and counterculture, the ruling class, the elite. If we read, the previous one was in the time of the temple, right? The whole story of Korah was created when the Kohanim were still functioning. This is 300 years later. You still have the same problems. We also learn about the importance of the drasha in the synagogue, because you see, it starts with the word tirgem, 27, it's not the first word of the English. It was interpreting in Aramaic. So Tirgem Yosei Me'oni Bevet HaKnesset Shel Ma'on. Why is he translating it to Aramaic? Because it was read publicly. Why was it read publicly? I don't think that it's one of the haftarot that we read. But back then, people could choose any portion of Navi that they wanted. So he chooses the portion and he translates it. So now it moves from the realm of liturgy into that of the sermon. So he chooses the pasuk and he translates it. And we spoke about how the rabbis tried to introduce Aramaic in order to make the reading more interesting and more exciting. But in most cases it backfired because now you had to read each pasuk 3 times. So now...
I was just reading the plot of that movie. Being there.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
anyway, so it's okay. So they read the Torah 3 times. So that's why we have Targumim on the Torah. Some of them are more concise and close to the original, and some of them are more elaborate, because this was the way of the rabbis to introduce the commentary and their interpretation. This is what they call Targum Yerushalmi or Targum Yonatan. It appears in some of the Humashim, but with the Haftarah, they definitely had more poetic freedom, and they could do whatever they want. So he starts with a pasuk, which is very simple. If I read just the literal translation is, listen, the priests, give ear, the house of Israel, and pay attention, the house of the king. But he makes it into a whole... here we already read the translation. He says... he reads it in the translation as if this is what's written. The people have no clue of what the Hebrew says. They only know it through his Aramaic. Right? It's like, you come to the synagogue and you say, no one in the synagogue speaks Hebrew. Right? And you say, today I want to speak about the verse, כדי להגיע לתחנת הרכבת בירושלים צריך לקחת אוטובוס מספר 3 ולרדת בתחנה השנייה. The Torah,
Yeah, they get that one.
They get autobus, okay. But they will say autobus. Right, I give you directions how to travel in Yerushalayim. And then you say, this is about corruption and that we do whatever you want. Here also, it's of course really a little bit, but he can expound as much as he wants. So it is his. He can't apologize. Say, that was the pasuk of the week. What can I do?
But
No, it wasn't.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. And sorry.
Oh, no.
And then I realized he did the same thing with Rabbi Nasi. Just I realized now, if he did it in the synagogue, where he took a pasuk that he chose the pasuk to be read and then interpreted it, he also managed to get Yudan Esiyah around until they got to this point. Yes.
So I'm seeing this ongoing notion of the people going against people of power, or disagreeing with kingship.
Mm-hmm.
Like starting from Solomon, in which he's building the temple,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually his son who said, you think who is it? Wasn't it his son who said, you think my father was bad?
Rehoboam, right.
Who's like, you think my father's bad? Well, let me tell you something.
Yes.
I'm going to make it 10 times worse, right?
Right. He tortured you with whips, and I'll torture you with scorpions.
So this kind of oppression of the status quo, so to speak, is prevalent, like starting from 1,900.
Even before.
I'm sorry, 9. Okay,
right.
Even before.
Right. No, you're right that it is a theme in Tanakh. It is a theme in Tanakh.
When was this time? 3. You said.
Shlomo is about 900 years. No, more.
No. But I'm talking about Hanasi, the son of.
Hanasi is 3rd century.
Okay.
Sorry, 4th century. 4th century.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It is. I could say one of the central themes of Tanakh is the question of the ideal form of government. But it's not only for Tanakh. It's, I think, one of the problems that bothers mankind from the dawn of civilization, and the concept of checks and balances. right? That's why when people say, okay, the United States is a democracy, other people say it's not a democracy. It's a republic that tries to be democratic, but really is run by oligarchs and in a way of a meritocracy, with some theocrats also being thrown into the mixture. So we have all kind of mishmash, right? I just heard someone today on the radio explaining how there's no such concept as separation of church and state in the American Constitution.
Preposterous.
Yeah, it's scary. Anyway, in the Tanakh, you can see it from the very beginning in Bereshit, where you have three societies that are presented, three forms of government. One is meritocracy, or the oligarchy, and that's before the flood. The ruling caste, the Bnei Elohim, the sons of the judges, and Bnei Adam, the commoners, and that leads to injustice. Then you have the society of the builder of the Tower of Babel, which is communism to the extreme, and then you have Sodom, which is capitalism to the extreme. I'm not saying it's based on Midrash; it's based on Ezekiel 16:16, which interprets Sodom as arrogance and not supporting others, meaning the concept of fairness to an extreme. That fair is you eat what you make. You work, you make.
Libertarianism.
Yeah, and some Republicans also think that way. But yes.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, isn't libertarianism sort of like the very right
It's somewhere.
end of the Republican?
Not necessarily. There are different values. So anyway, and then you have later on the Melech, right? There's a concept of monarchy. The Torah says if you want a king, you can have a king. It's not the ideal situation. The people want a king. At the time of Shemuel, he bashes them. He says the king is going to oppress you. And when you start with the kings, it's terrible. The judges, the system doesn't work. The priest doesn't work. Nothing works. At the end of the day, no system of government works. Kohelet brings it to the forefront, and
Everything is.
I think that what the Torah wants to say eventually. I think I wrote an article about this once called "The Government of One," about Abraham, and I think we're seeing it today that eventually it's the power of the individual. Meaning, if the more individuals want to do good, the better their country and their government will function.
What is that called?
It's called doing the right thing. It's called Ve'avta L'chaverecha kamocha. It's
Individualism?
It's not individualism. It's community. I call it the rule of the community.
Taking personal responsibility.
Yes, but working together. Like after Katrina, what was the name of the agency that had to deal with this? FIFA. FIFA is the soccer. Yeah. I mean, they're so irrelevant. That's why I don't remember.
Not doing the right thing.
Yeah, none of them, right? If FIFA was giving maybe drugs and to just calm people down there, maybe because they were so upset, but they couldn't find relatives of each other. They couldn't connect them, and a couple of entrepreneurs put together a website, and they were able to connect people right away. Yeah. Or you think about people like Bill Gates, who's pushing people to. I mean, whether you agree or not agree with some of his practices, the philanthropists, the inventors, the people are pushing, and in a way, governments are going towards a future where it will really be conglomerates and companies who will be the.
Will own
Premise of
people?
RoboCop.
Yeah, it's before RoboCop is Robert Heinlein in one of his early books in the 1950s, and it describes like you come off the train and you hear that Amtrak attacked Mexico and obliterated it. Yeah, something like that. I mean, because it's like you see the BDS, for example, right? The anti-divestment campaign, right? And what happens, like companies like Intel and Microsoft and others who are invested in Israel say, well, we're not interested in that. So they're their own governments. Anyway, it's just one of my favorite topics, so I'm going off on a tangent. But this, you see that a lot of the Midrashim that I brought deal with that. This is a reality. And the people are using Midrash as a weapon. And that is, when you think of, Solzhenitsyn, the Russian the Russian writer who went to the what was called archipelago Gulag, the Gulag, and was imprisoned there. What the government does, the first thing the government does, in order to control people, is to go against creativity, because the artists, the authors, the Nazis did the same. Stalin did the same. 1984 is all about controlling language.
There's an excellent short story by Alfred Bester about the war for the poet.
Oh, I need to read that.
Yeah.
He is the one who wrote Flowers for
No, he's not.
Algernon?
He wrote it's not him, I don't think.
No, but I know backstory. I read his books. He's a science fiction writer.
Yeah.
Okay. Science fiction also is the allegory in science fiction in terms of social commentary. Amazing. And we go back to the Tower of Babel. That's my Midrash, sort of. It's not a punishment. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that the builders of the Tower of Babel were sinners. And it doesn't even say that what he did to them was a punishment. But rather, it's a story about the creation of language. And it's not a punishment, it's a reward. Or rather, a remedy. Because if they're trying to create an extremely communist society, what they have in the book of Bereshit, before they build the tower, the Torah says that they all had safa ahat udvarim ahadim. One tongue and one issue. What?
Words?
Words is not davar. Words is a subject matter, issue, concept. So I think language and ideology. They have one language, one ideology. And they build this tower in order to be a centralized culture where eventually, it seems, because of what happens next, that they were aiming into a completely monochromatic society, that everybody works together for the same goal. So what does God do? He says, I'm going to give you languages.
So God introduces diversity.
God introduces diversity. Now that you have many languages, you cannot subdue all languages. You'll squash one, another will pop. And that will show the diversity of mankind and creativity. So I didn't write the chapter about this yet in my book, so if you use it carefully. Anyway, but it's recorded, so who cares? But I like looking at it this way, because otherwise it's like, why is God upset? They didn't do anything. Let them build. They're good people. So God sees the potential of where you sacrifice the diversity of the people for sake of the
Creativity.
No, for the sake of unity or the.
I thought you meant to say it the opposite way.
The what?
God ends up sacrificing unity for the sake of diversity.
Yeah. He sacrifices unity for diversity. Yeah, he wanted to prevent what the others were doing. The builder of the tower wanted to do the opposite.
He wanted to unify.
Yeah.
It's almost as if God is saying, look, I know what one is like. Because that's me. I'm one.
Right.
So I want to see what many look like.
Right. And in 1984, the language is modified, right? Like instead of saying
Double speak?
Yeah, double speak, right?
Take out
You can't say evil, you say double good
Double
or
bad.
double bad, or so, right?
Same with the giver, they took out adjectives.
Yeah, same as in every totalitarian regime, whether it's oppressive in the physical sphere or in the theological sphere. Like there are certain words that you cannot say, there are certain thoughts that you cannot express, and so on.
He who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named. Yeah, that's
One of the VPs where I work.
Oh, you must love him or her.
It's not even supposed to be an insult, but it's
okay. No, but they don't know who said that. Okay. Okay. Do we have time for one last mashal?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's read this one, number 28. I also thought it's nice. It's about Resh Lakish, the same Resh Lakish,
Same Rabbi Judah.
and the same Rabbi Judah. Yes.
All right, Reish Lakish went up to pay his respects to our rabbi, Judah the first, patriarch. Pray for me, Rabbi Judah begged him, "for this Roman government is exceedingly evil. Take nothing from anyone," Reish Lakish told him, "and then you will not have to give anything to anyone." While Reish Lakish was sitting with Rabbi Judah, a woman came in bringing Rabbi a dish with a knife in it. He took the knife and returned the dish to the woman. At that moment, an imperial courier came in and saw the knife, took a fancy to it, and carried it off. Toward evening, Reish Lakish went again to pay his respects to our rabbi and saw him laughing. "Why are you laughing?" asked Reish Lakish. The rabbi said, "That knife you saw, an imperial courier came in, saw it, coveted it, and took it away." Reish Lakish responded, "Did I not tell you that if you take nothing from anyone, you will not have to give anything to anyone?" It's probably a whole bunch of...
Yeah. It's a nice story, right? Mm-hmm. So, any comment on that? Or?
Why at the very beginning?
Yes.
If Reish Lakish would have to pay his respects, why is it almost seems like it immediately flips?
Yeah, so I think paying respect is not about mourning. He goes to greet him.
Yeah,
so every day he shows.
I thought it was.
Yeah, I know.
It was like deferring to him as the scholar or something.
Yeah. So here's the problem. There's tension. Reish Lakish comes from humble origins, but he's right. Reish Lakish comes from humble origins, but he's the more learned and the more knowledgeable. Rabbi Yehuda is the president, is the prince, but is challenged in terms of leadership. So he needs the advice of Reish Lakish. So he says, "Pray for me, for this Roman government is exceedingly evil. Like I cannot handle them." Unlike his grandfather Yehuda, the prince, who was very close to Anthony, the emperor, this didn't work that well for the rabbi. And why is this advice? Take nothing from anyone, and then you will not have to give anything to anyone. How do you understand this advice?
I thought it meant don't take anything from the Roman government, and then you won't be in their debt, and then they won't be able to use you. But that's not what ended up happening.
That's not what happened, right? But it also could mean that.
Well, maybe don't be oppressive to your people, and then people won't oppress you.
That also could be, yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that's along these lines. He said, you take stuff from people. You're wealthy. They will take your wealth. If you don't own, you're not going to be robbed. It could be meaning. He says you could be a poor prince. It's okay. Leadership is not about possession. Now, you don't know it, but Reish Lakish had an ideology according to which he should own nothing.
That's after he was a robber for many years.
Yes, maybe because
He saw what it did to him, and he saw what it did to the people that he robbed.
exactly. I'm not saying this is the most righteous prayer, but that was after he did teshuvah. So he said, whatever I earn during the day, I'll spend on that day. That's it. I'm not saving anything. I live day to day. When he passed away, he left. There was a little bag of. They call it murika. So it could be. Some say it's turmeric. But obviously, everybody agrees some kind of spice. So it's something that you cannot consume, rapidly. You can't eat just before you die. The last piece. Maybe he bought too much. And there was a little called sakah de morika, a little tiny amount of that, and he said the verse ve'azvu lahirim hilam, I'm leaving all my possessions to others. He was really upset about that. So Reish Lakish is an extreme example of don't own anything and then you own nothing. What can they take from you?
That only works in a world where you don't live to be 90 years old and have to save for the future, because otherwise.
I know it's right, of course. The approach of having nothing, right, but there's a balance where have what you made for yourself without relying on others' favors. So maybe he's also implying that what Yosef of Maron was saying, we don't know if it happened before or after, but what Yosef of Maron was saying that the president, the patriarch is taking from people, said, it's true. They look at you and you're a bully and you have and it's symbolic that what was brought to the prince or to the patriarch as a gift was a dagger, it says a knife, but it was more like a dagger. It probably was a precious. It's a precious stone because the courier leaves the diskera, the vessel, whatever it was, a plate, and takes only the knife, meaning it was worthless. It was just a basis for that knife. And in that case, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi ended up laughing because he realizes that Resh Lakish was right. Okay, so.
But this perhaps could also be talking about the whole, tribute taxation system.
Yes, could be.
So Judah,
You're taxing the
responsible,
people,
right, to collect taxes from the people, and
right? But don't keep anything for yourself. Because whatever you have extra, they will take from you. And that I'm saying that's why maybe the dagger is here or the knife, because it's a symbol of death. Like you're playing with, you're toying with death by being at that position. Maybe he's almost telling him, quit that position where you don't need that. Maybe because he knew that the Nasi at the time was more of a figurehead. So I think with that we'll conclude the study of texts and the whole section of Midrash. It was a long one, but I mean there's so many more Midrashim that we could do and go through, and hope